Now, we're back to the storytelling and getting away from me, which is something that's probably, you should pay just for that, by the way. So, Margaret, where are you seated? Margaret, come on up here, girl. You're gonna talk to us about, I went to college in, well, I'll shut up and let you tell it, but I went to college in the place you're gonna talk about. Okay.
Hi, everybody. As I was coming up with stories for tonight, the only stories I could really come up with that pertain to me were at my own expense, which is really sad. So, on top of the fact that I wanted to be relatable to everyone, I tried to come up with the worst, most embarrassing experience that I, still today, am incredibly ashamed of. So, I'm talking about my first job. Everybody, imagine sophomore year, Margaret, timid, shy, short hair, no acne, thankfully, but still really dorky, just like came off of me. And I still live in St. Louis, Missouri, and one thing about St. Louis is it's very, very Catholic, to the point of being a cult. There are only private schools, single sex. Everyone was in uniforms, and as I was strolling the halls of Cor Jesu Academy, Latin for the Sacred Heart of Christ, I saw on the job board that there was a job at Catholic Supply. Now, background. I, for some reason, have the amazing superpower of repelling any job that I applied for. Be it McDonald's or, even volunteer work. I was just not able to work there. But I saw that this one store that was conveniently a block away from my house. I was devout Catholic, it applied to my life. I whipped the poster off the wall and ran home. I was like, Mom, I found the perfect job. I can make money. There is no way I can be fired from a job that's at a Catholic Supply. But that's what this story is about. How the one person in the world that could be fired from a Catholic Supply did. Now, some background on Catholic Supply. Imagine a moldy, kind of off-white wall, small contained space filled with glass shelves where anything that pertained to your Catholic interests resided. You could buy vestments that priests would wear, Bibles, bobblehead Jesus. Yeah. And the workers who resided there, my least favorite people in the world, the manager, her sidekick, and a girl from my school who only worked there because I did. Just some background on these people. The manager, her name is Judy. She wore any possible animal print that you could imagine. It's like she belonged in a safari. Her hair was like straw. She had gaudy neon heels that she'd wear every day, and had two incredible buck teeth that just whistled every time she said an S. And of course, the Wicked Witch of the West was not complete at all without her personal flying monkey, who is personally named Mickey. She was the co-manager, and there has never been a more saddy, depressing person that you could encounter. Eeyore's like, well, I guess we all don't have to be happy. Imagine that a couple octaves higher, well, I guess you can bobble the bobblehead Jesus. She was awful. And then, of course, there was Birdie, Bridget, but went by Birdie. She also went to my high school and applied because I had applied. And she would literally skip around the store like dusting and singing, and if the doors were open, I swear birds would land on her shoulders. And she wore ascots. As a 14-year-old, who wears ascots anymore? Anyways, then there was me. I wore Iron Man sweatshirts. I was the weird girl with the pixie haircut. I came there to work. No. I came there to make money. I could not care less about socializing with people. I just wanted to do my job and leave at the end of the day. But, it comes to the point where you think you're paranoid about people staring at you or talking about you, but when it comes to the point that you literally hear your coworkers talking and insulting you from 10 feet away, that's not paranoia anymore. That's just not a good experience. experience. A lot of things went wrong. They were not very nice people. There are times where they'd make fun of how I dress, what high school I went to. One time I came in with an Iron Man sweatshirt sucking a lollipop, and, because why not? And they were like, I remember Mickey was like, Margaret? And I was like, oh no. I was like, hi. And they were like, so Iron Man. And Judy's just like in the corner. And Mickey's doing all the talking, and I didn't know what to say. I was antisocial, so something just came to my mind. I was like, yeah, Iron Man, I have a theory. If you either really like Iron Man or you really like Batman. I don't know where that came from, but I was trying to make conversation. I was trying to develop interpersonal relations with my bosses and coworkers, but they just kind of stared and were like, really, to work? You know, you could just feel that off of them. And then Mickey was like, and the lollipop? And I was like, well, it was a blow pop. Like, this wasn't just a lollipop. Like, this is worth it. But what do you say? You know, I turned my back and I was starting to walk away, and just, I could hear, like, Judy be like, she might as well be a 12-year-old boy. And I was like, oh. That's when I knew things were bad. But I can't complain much. I mean, I'm kind of timid. I like to think that I'm a rule follower, but to be honest, I wasn't the best employee. They might have been bad, but I was worse. I mean, that's why there was the 3-strike system. If you were to receive 3 strikes, your employment would be terminated. And let me tell you, I earned those 3 strikes. First off, I had to go to a funeral and miss work. Strike 1. It gets better. My boyfriend dumped me, and I called in sick. Mic drop, just... Yeah. And the worst of all, I mixed up my schedule with someone else. Yeah, I know. I can see the shock on your face. It's like, I didn't know who I was dealing with. But even though I received my 3 strikes, like on the phone with Mickey, she was like, okay, just come into work one more time. You know, it was like I was walking on thin ice. This was it. And I don't know what happened. Something snapped in me. My life has flashed before my eyes only a few times. But in the story I'm about to tell you, like, it was just a blur, and that's what happened. So, are you guys aware of what willow statues are? If you don't know the name, you'd see them and recognize them. They're carved out of wood, and they're faceless, kind of like the everyman character. You can insert yourself in their place and understand whatever their emotion they're portraying. Anyways, on these glass shelves, which I was required to dust, stood millions and millions of willow statues, and one of them was of this girl. She was like embracing the 80s carpet that she was standing on, and had like little birds sitting upon her arms. And always I would dust and knock these things over, and it would be like, and everyone would look at me, and I was like, ah, you know. But as I was dusting these statues, I noticed that one of the little birds was knocked off her arm. It was a display item, so that means you have this item that we put so people would see it, and if they'd want to buy it, you'd go in back and out of the stock room, pick up the actual item and hand that to them. Well, I knock things over all the time. Mickey, Judy, even Birdie would think that I broke this statue, so horrified, I grabbed it in Tiny Bird and ran to the back room, which was the bathroom. Now, I had a big squeegee kind of thing of super glue, and like I'm fumbling, like shaking, fumbling with all of this over the sink, like trying to pour it on the statue and get the bird, and you know, and the bird falls down the sink. This is foreshadowing, folks, to my demise. Now, I'm horrified. I have this statue that's like covered in super glue, a bird's missing. What do I do? Well, I just put it back where I found it. So, I'm working, it's near closing time, and I tell them that there's a statue that I found with like a bird missing. They're like, Judy. She's like, well, there's super glue all over it. What's super glue doing there, Margaret? And I was like, I don't know. Customers were carrying super glue, I guess. Anyways, this is where the blur began. I don't remember what they said. In one ear out the other, all I know is, for someone without a temper, something snapped inside of me. And I don't even, something happened where I acted out and was inappropriate. It was near closing time and I'd have a checklist and I'd follow the checklist, dust, vacuum, wipe down the shelves, bobblehead Jesus if I had time, that was a little thing I added in. But as I was dusting, I swiped the statue and snuck to the back room. And I was holding it, and they didn't know what I was doing. They probably thought that I was cleaning the toilet. But I just stood there and I held the statue and I kind of jammed it down the toilet. And, the arms broke off, and the toilet was porcelain, so I really jammed it in there. I kind of broke part of the toilet, and I broke the statue. And I flushed several times. And I kind of just stood there, and I looked at it for a couple seconds. And then I walked out. I walked out of the store, actually. They were like, oh, are you going? I kept my head down, I didn't talk. And they were like, have a good day. And I was like... And I was in the car with my mom, and I told her about it. And at first she was like, Margaret Bialis, how could you? 5 minutes later she was like, good. And naturally, several days later, I received a phone call that my employment wasn't in fact terminated. But, even to this day, I tell people not even the forbidden fruit tasted sweeter than the moment I was fired from a Catholic Supply.